Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Purajit. Um, from the Bliss podcast, Hare Krishna podcast, chatting with the Hare Krishnas. Today we're discussing a topic of the Black Lives Matter movement. And not just this particular movement, it is not that we're uh, picking on a specific movement, but we're talking about racism and um, this is of course a very I would say a sensitive topic. So um, it is very important to understand that Krishna consciousness is not a racist movement. It is not against the black people. This is very important. We should say this right from the beginning. And we're going to explain why in this podcast. And we hope that the listeners will take the time to listen and see the whole picture or hear the whole context. So before we start discussing, I would like to say Hare Krishna to our regular listeners, David James, Bridget, Harley David Heiser, Sabina Mataji, Makanchur Prabhu, Paramahamsa, and of course Maitreya Rishi Prabhu, who is in London now. There's some development in our London preaching. We're going to talk about it soon. Also, Ekanata Mataji, I'm not sure if she's listening. Ekanata Mataji, write a comment if you're listening. That's how we're going to know. We're going to test whether you're listening or not. You must write a comment on YouTube. And there's some other listeners. For example, there's the Bad Boy. Bad Boy had been discussing a few our videos here on Expand the Bliss channel. And he's distributing Srila Prabhupada's books. He shared some of his stories and experiences and shared some of his realizations of Prabhupada's movement, even on this very topic of racism. Actually, there is a whole discussion on another video you might search out. It's called Who is That Fool Who Thinks That Our Spiritual Master is a Racist? This is the name of the video. It's a class I gave last year. So there's been some reactions there. There obviously some people who are claiming that Srila Prabhupada is against the black people, and they take great pride in it. They think that this is very nice. See, Prabhupada says this, so the blacks should be offended and the Jewish people should be insulted, and we should, get into this nonsense. It's claiming that the body, based on the body, that the person should be judged based on his body. It is a foolish idea. And these so-called devotees, whatever mixed up devotees, confused devotees, they propagate Krishna consciousness in this way, and Srila Prabhupada in this way. So then there's another class of people, the misunderstanding goes on, who then think that Krishna consciousness and Prabhupada is a racist movement. So anyway, we're going to clarify all these things in today's podcast. So if you want to check out that video, I'm going to try to link it up in the comment sections if I have the time. Usually I'm very rushing everything. So in case I don't put it, please kindly anyone volunteer, link up the video. It can be you can find it on the Expand the Bliss channel on YouTube also. Again, I repeat, it's called "Who is that fool who thinks that our spiritual master is a racist?" Question mark. This is the name of the video. You can listen to the class also if you want. Write a comment on that video, or you can share your realizations on this topic on this particular podcast video in the comment section. Please don't hesitate. This is a lively topic. Now there's some racial protests. This Black Lives Matter movement has become somehow prominent, and it is being discussed. So it's an excellent opportunity for us Krishna conscious devotees to explain the basic fundamental teaching of the Bhagavad Gita. Uh, of course, the fundamental teaching of the Bhagavad Gita is that Krishna is God and you should surrender to Him and serve Him with love and devotion. But in order to do that, we have to tackle one little misunderstanding, and that is that we think we're this material body. We think we're man, woman, ugly, beautiful, white, this, and so on, so on. So this is a problem, you see, and the whole world, everyone is deeply immersed in this Maya, in this illusion. I cracked a joke on Facebook. I said that there's a new virus. It's called Mayavit-19. Maya, the virus Maya. And the virus Maya is, if you have the virus Maya, please stay home and don't write comments. Possible, don't write if you're in Maya. If you're in ignorance, then whatever you say might sound very nice and you might have a good intention. It's simply spreading the ignorance, and more people get ignorant. So I have a couple of quotes here from Srila Prabhupada on this topic of racism and black people. One thing I would like to mention is that Prabhupada is using, when he speaks of black people, he's sometimes using the word negro. And I asked Maitreya Rishi Prabhu, because my language is not English. My first language is not English. I'm not from the English-speaking countries. I was born in Slovakia, so I don't have so much understanding how the different words, what they actually mean. And I understand what they mean, but the effects they create, I'm not so much aware. So Maitreya Rishi Prabhu, who's been living in the States for many years, he said that the word negro is considered to be derogative. So I don't think Prabhupada is meaning it in a derogative way. He's not using the word in a derogative way. But it's the way how Prabhupada is speaking, and many times Prabhupada is using different words that might have a different meaning at the present moment. For example, religion. Right? Srila Prabhupada uses the word religion. The real religion is to know God and to love Him. But in our understanding, common understanding of religion is a sort of faith organization, and there are many such organizations, religious organizations. So we have to study actually what Prabhupada means deeply, not make some interpretation based on our own biases or cultural background and so on and so on. And this is what this podcast is all about. We are sharing wisdom of Srila Prabhupada, and we're studying the wisdom Srila Prabhupada gave us, and we're discussing. Srila Prabhupada wants independently thoughtful, mindful people to lead this Krishna consciousness movement. It is not a fanatical, sentimental movement, although sentiment is also included. And if you want to be fanatical, then be fanatical about Krishna. That is good fanaticism. But um, that fanaticism also has a downside, and that is that it doesn't last for long. Why people get fanatical? Because they're materially motivated. Uh, just like Prabhupada uses this proverb. He says, too much devotion is a sign of a thief. You see, so too much fanaticism is a sign that that person is lacking understanding of what this Krishna consciousness movement is. And then it creates difficulties because it gives a wrong impression of what this movement is all about. And then people become turned off, or they don't understand, and um, it's actually very difficult for people to understand this Krishna consciousness because it's on the spiritual platform. It's beyond the body. It's nothing to do with the body. But the material world, the society today, everything is based on the body. Everything. It's so deep rooted, this bodily conception of life. Nobody is discussing. Actually, reincarnation is considered to be like a belief. It's a belief, and generally the default understanding is there's only one life, and that's it. So this would be I think, the first thing to understand, that Srila Prabhupada and the Bhagavad Gita, this is the first lesson. We are not the body. We're not man, woman, black or white or yellow or green. Uh, the body is simply a car for the soul. We're all driving our cars, but we're not the car, we're the driver. You see, there might be different cars, different shapes, but unless there's a driver in the car, the car will not move. So driver is the essential part of the body. The part of the moving car is the driver, not the car. The car we're not concerned with. You see, and this can be scientifically explained. It is not that we're believing this. Oh, I believe because I'm afraid of death. What's going to happen? So I made up this fantasy, this idea of reincarnation, so my mind feels in peace. No, Krishna himself, when we say scientifically, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to a laboratory and use the tubes and do experiments and and so on, so on. Use microscopes and telescopes and whatever. Scientific means factual. It is factual, and this scientific evidence. There are various types of evidences. Simply the direct perception. Let's say I see some experiment and I see with my eyes that there's a tube exploding or something, or the atoms or molecules are moving under the microscope viewpoint. This is not the only evidence. There is also evidence by hypothesis. Just like if I see a smoke coming out of a chimney on a house, I can understand that there's a fire in a house. I don't have to necessarily see the fire. You see, this saves much time. Hypothesis. This is a authorized scientific method. Hypothesis. It saves much time. Direct experience. If you want to see the fire, I have to see. Although there's a smoke, I have to go and see. Then you waste your time. It is actually foolishness. Nowadays, everyone is on the internet checking out. Everyone says, "Oh, I will Google it." So Google means you accepting the authority of the person who made the research for you. You don't make research about every single thing. That would make your life very difficult if you had to verify everything. So just to make life easier, instead of doing research on everything, we simply decide, this is a free choice based on so many different aspects, so many different criteria. We make a choice of authorities we trust. You see, this is what actually people are unaware of uh, this phenomena, this process, how it is going on. They think that, oh, I make research, I do everything, I can know everything, I have Google, so I am God, I am omniscient because I have Google. It is not so. It is not so. Everywhere you are accepting someone else's authority. So the real task, if you want to be independently minded, is to pick the right authority. You should put effort into deciding who is the right authority. This is called personalism. Personalism. Instead of relying on some impersonal method, oh, the microscope says so, or this and that, and then ultimately, you are trusting your senses. And as I see it, it is not true. See, you trusting your senses. Instead of trusting your senses, why not trust a person, a consciousness? And when you come to the perfection of this process, you come to the perfect person, God. It doesn't matter, whether you accept it's Krishna or not, but there must be a perfect person, supreme perfect person, and he is the top-notch authority. And if you accept that sort of authority, perfect authority, then you have perfect knowledge, perfect independent knowledge. It is independent from anyone's imperfect interpretation of reality. I hope I'm making sense here, that you are able to follow this. But this is our method. So, how to understand God? We understand through the authority of the spiritual master. Uh, in the same way, how do we understand who is a bona fide spiritual master? The bona fide spiritual master only speaks what God speaks. He doesn't contradict. So, amongst various scriptures on God, the Bhagavad Gita is the most complete. We don't say it's the most wonderful or it's the best. We say it's the most complete. Because when we speak of God, there is no qualitative difference in the various descriptions of God. See, on the absolute platform, there is no such distinction. There is no duality. In the material world, there is duality. On the spiritual platform, there is no duality. So any bona fide scripture that glorifies God is the best. They're all the best. But comparatively, materially speaking, in terms of the amount of elaboration and amount of information that is contained in various scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita is the most superior. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the science of God. What is his quality, how he operates through different energies, how the spirit soul is trapped in the body. Everything minutely described scientifically. So coming back to the hypothesis, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Dehinosmin yata dehi ko maram yo vanam jara tata dehantara Prapti dhirastatra namuhyati. This is a very strong argument. You can use it if you want to explain reincarnation to people who might not be uh, so much in knowledge. This is how you can reach them on the basis of logic. Um, in the past, you had a body that was youthful. Now you have a grown up body. In the future, you have an old body. The body is changing. It is not the same body, constantly changing. 2 days from now on, your mustache will grow, your hair will grow, your nails will grow. Everything is changing. You eat something spoiled, immediately your skin turns from pink to green, to greenish. Then you vomit. So the body is undergoing changes all the time. But you, the person who is observing this body, you do not change. And a person who understands this, Krishna calls him a dhira, or most sober person, self-realized person. He understands, oh, the body is just like a car. So this is the problem, that we all think, oh, I am the body. Why we think like that? Because we're constantly being guided by the senses. We're so much controlled by our senses. We are controlled. The nose says, oh, go there, this smells nice restaurant, come, let's go and eat. The tongue also, oh, let me take this palatable chicken, McDonald's, this, that, Big Burger, Smack Burger, whatever. And so on. All our senses are pushing us from this side to that side. So real yogi, he is not being pushed by the senses, but he becomes the controller of the senses. Goswami. And such a Goswami is a dhira. He is the most sober, he is intelligent, sober person. So this philosophy is for such sober persons. It is not for passionate, sensual people who are being governed by the senses like the animals. You see, an animal, he cannot restrain himself. A dog comes to the kitchen, immediately goes and eats the food. You can explain to him, no dog, this is not, you cannot take this. We have to cook now, we have to offer to Krishna. He goes, he eats, whatever, without any discrimination. He doesn't care. The senses are so strong. You see, so in such a position, if we're not able to control our senses, we cannot fix our mind. They're interconnected. We cannot fix our mind on spiritual science. So we advise everyone to control your senses very easily. Chant this Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the beginning. Just like a sound, when a person is sleeping, all his senses are absent. He can't use them. Except the ear. When I say, wake up, then immediately he wakes up. So all our senses might be fully engaged in, the sense objects of this material world. They might be running, they might be hankering, they might be enjoying these sense objects. But the ear has a special ability. The ear can receive spiritual sound vibration. This Hare Krishna is a spiritual sound vibration. It can wake up the soul. And when the soul is awakened, one becomes faith, one gains faith. Oh, this is some interesting transcendental process. Let me chant more. Hare Krishna. And by chanting, slowly, one is able to take hold of all his senses. He can control his tongue, belly, genital, everything. And then he becomes a dhira. Then he becomes fit to understand spiritual science. That's what we're discussing today. So it's very important that we understand this. that this Krishna consciousness movement cannot be understood by people who are uncontrolled. And this is not a discrimination, this is a science. This is a science. Just like, if someone is blind, mm, if someone voluntarily becomes blind, he plugs out his eyes, then he cannot see. And if you ask such a person to drive a car, to drive us all somewhere downtown, then that is an insane proposition, right? And if someone now objects, oh, you are discriminating, just because he's blind, he cannot drive the car? You are discriminating? What is this? That is nonsense. You see? So this has nothing to do with whether someone is black or white or yellow or green or small or white. Doesn't matter. The only qualification to understand this Krishna consciousness is the willingness, and one must control his senses. So our Srila Prabhupada, he instructs all his disciples to follow these regulative principles: no illicit sex life, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication. Chant 16 rounds every day for this purpose, so we can understand the spiritual science of the soul and God Krishna. This is why these rules are important, because we do need to understand scientifically. We don't want to be foolish. Everyone is trying to preach something, teach something, but very few people have an actual understanding of reality and what needs to be done. So anyway, this Black Lives Matter, I checked up on the internet, just a very superficial research I've done a little bit, and of course this movement of black people fighting racism in America has been going on for a long time, since the slavery times, right? The black people were enslaved, very horrible, very much mistreated. And when they were given freedom, still the racism, you can't regulate racism by a law. It's some kind of a internal thing, right? It's like a culture. As I said before, this racism is a bodily conception of life. Those who think that, oh, I am the body, I'm black, I'm white, I'm this and that, they're in the bodily conception of life. So I have a nice quote here. Srila Prabhupada, a disciple is asking or is telling Prabhupada, in America, the Negro situation was very bad, and they made many films showing heroic Negros, and now the situation is much better. The people are not so much agitated by seeing Negros. They think, oh, now a Negro has some good qualities. Just keep in mind, this is year 1976. Okay, so because of these films, they have come to appreciate. So like that, if a devotee is a hero, they will also appreciate. Yeah, this is a devotee who wants to make a movie about a devotee, and he's presenting the idea to Srila Prabhupada. Now Prabhupada answers, you judge, I don't appreciate. I don't think the Negro question is solved. And the disciple continues, no, it's not, but it is making steps to that end. Prabhupada, the whites, they do not like the Negros still. Whatever there are Negros, in that quarter, the whites do not go in. Is it not? They do not go, although they have been given equal right But at heart, the whites, they do not like it. Is there any improvement? I don't think. So officially, yes, yes, you are good, I am good. Another disciple interjects. Oh, this is very uh, interesting what Prabhupada says, that in the heart, the whites are still racist. Another disciple interjects. He says, because people are still on the bodily conception of life, so they're threatened. Prabhupada, yes, that is the real disease. So long one is situated in the bodily concept of life, he's an animal. First of all, you have to educate them. That is the difficulty. So, of course, this Black Lives Matter movement is a sort of political movement. It is not a spiritual movement. And this is also part of the problem that this racism is very difficult to pinpoint. It is almost like an internal thing. It might express itself, of course, by outward discrimination or abuse, insults, and you know various nasty things that people do to each other because of color of someone else's skin. But Prabhupada and our Krishna consciousness movement is going to the root of the problem. Is going to the very, very root. And that is this bodily conception of life. You see, because unless that is eliminated or purified, this bodily concept of life, the problem will go on. It will mute. It will how would you say? It will transform into another form, but it will always be there. You see, so I was reading about the slavery, that when the slavery was abolished, it seemed like a noble thing, but the black people were denied rights to defend themselves in court. They had no right to assemble. Things like that. But on the other hand, they had the responsibilities of citizens. They had to pay taxes or something like that. I don't know the details. So it's not black and white, as they say. It's a nice saying. It's not black and white. Things are not black and white. It's more deeper than that. So Krishna consciousness movement is going to the root problem. Why do you think that you are the body in the first place? Whether black or white doesn't matter. Even thinking that, oh, I'm black, this is also racism. This is also racism. On one hand, you think that, oh, the whites, they're discriminating. But you are also discriminating because you consider yourself to be black. This is also discrimination. Srila Prabhupada, there was a disciple who was complaining, a black-bodied disciple. He came to Prabhupada and said that the other devotees, they had some racial remarks. See, unfortunately, there were some low-class devotees like that. So, Srila Prabhupada said that, oh, this is bodily conception of life. From their side, they're not actually advanced. They have not understood anything. But if you take offense, oh, they have insulted me, they have insulted my color of skin, then you're not better than them. This is a pastime Srila Prabhupada manifested, this instruction he gave us. If you take offense, then you also in the same ignorance. You see, so this will go on. This racism must go on because it's an animalism. One animal thinks he's better than the others. See, you can also say that, okay, you being discriminated, the black people are being discriminated against, and it's unjust and it's unfair. But many of these black people are consuming animals. They go and they purchase meat and they eat. And for that money, this slaughterhouse business is maintained, where millions of animals are brutally killed. You see, so we see it, we Krishna conscious devotees, we see it that not simply black people are being discriminated against, but everyone is being discriminated against, all the different species of life. And it's called struggle for existence. Everyone is trying to exploit the other race or species, and so on and so on. This is called material life. We cannot change that. But we can change that in the sense that we can minimize such exploitation and racism to the point of zero if we learn to control our senses. If we learn how to be self-satisfied, and if we are not interested, then we ourselves must discriminate against someone else. Someone is discriminating against you, you will discriminate against someone else. It is a hypocrisy to say that, oh, I am being discriminated against, while you yourself are discriminating against the animals. They're also the soul, trapped in a different body. You have no right to say that the animal body is inferior than your body, the human body. It is not inferior. God, Krishna, He has created all the different species of life, all the different bodies. So everyone can enjoy His creation. You have no right to come and say, oh, I'm going to kill you because that's it. Because I'm stronger. So, this is, on one hand, a great opportunity for these activists, for the black people's rights, to understand a deeper meaning behind this discrimination. It is an unfortunate phenomenon that someone is being judged based on the color of his skin. But it can also open your eyes to a higher reality. How this material world actually is a horrible place to be in, and how to actually get liberated from this position. It is not that simply we get liberated by getting some rights to enjoy our senses, just like the other ones. Or the white people, they can gratify their senses, they can exploit others. I also want to equally exploit others. That is not the liberation. The real liberation is that we understand that we're not this body, as I said before. We're spirit soul, part and parcel of God, Krishna. And when we understand this, I'm spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, part and parcel of God, and I revive my relationship with God, then I can see everyone equally. This is the real equality. This is the real liberation everyone is trying for. And all these things is simply lots of passion, and people are ultimately wasting their time. See, nothing can be accomplished by these protests, by these movements, Because even, let's say, you get some justice, ultimately you cannot get liberation from death. Whether you're black or white, then then you have the equality. Everyone has to die. And the next body, you do not know where you're gonna go. This is the real problem. Where you gonna go after this black body or white body is finished? Do you know? You're fighting for the black rights, rights of the black people, but the next life you might be born in a white family. And you might actually be so much covered again by your bodily designation, bodily conception of life, that you might find these protests of black people disturbing. See, this is try to see it from this angle of vision, a little deeper. Let's go a little deeper from the platform of transmigration of the soul. So we're wasting our time taking birth as a white man, then black man, then yellow man, this, that, so on, so on, and fighting for some cause, wasting time. Instead of reviving our relationship and engaging in the real activity, devotional service to Krishna. Let us give something to Krishna. Let's give him something back. Instead of fighting for our own sense gratification on this platform or that platform, why don't we spend the energy by trying to give something to Krishna? Trying to serve Krishna. Trying to give our love to Krishna. If we were simply doing this, then there will be no problem. Because if you revive your Krishna consciousness, then automatically, as I said, you accept, you love all the living entities in this world, not just black people or white people, but even the animals. So this is very important. Now, there has been some discussion. Okay, here's a nice quote. Srila Prabhupada says, before we go to the discussion, Srila Prabhupada says, if you are really God conscious, if you think that God is the father of all living entities, how you can say that he is not father of the cats and the dogs and the cows? He's the father of everyone. He's in different dress. Because you are in different dress, in black dress, is it the right of the white man to cut your throat? No. The God conscious, as soon as people become God conscious, oh, he may be in black dress, I may be in white dress, but he's also son of God. I am also son of God. He's my brother. This is God conscious. This is lacking. Therefore, I am treating somebody lower than me and somebody higher than me due to want of this Krishna consciousness. This is lacking. I have got many Africans, my students. Of course, American Negroes, they're equally living, chanting, dancing with these white boys. They have forgotten that he's black and he's white because they're not in the platform of this bodily concept of life. This is a room conversation with African Intelligentsia, September 22nd, 1971, Nairobi. You see, so again, let's go a little bit deeper than that. Let's go beyond the body altogether. Doesn't mean that we're denying the body. The black people, they give lots of contribution. There's a black culture. There's this is good. This is not that we should deny it. But we should understand that we're beyond that. We might have different cultures, different cultural backgrounds and songs and you name it. But we have to go beyond that also, simultaneously. Keep your culture, keep your everything, keep your pride, but at the same time understand that I am spirit soul, equal with all living entities in this world. Okay, so there's been some discussion uh, because Prabhupada said also something that people consider to be racist, and that's why we made this class. Only a fool can think that our spiritual master is racist. Now, there's been a comment made by someone called Sue. Maybe she's listening now. Hare Krishna, Sue. So she said in the comments, it would be fair to say that saying black people should have been left to be slaves because they have been given money and freedom, they have been nothing but a disturbance to the society. In Prabhupada's own voice, why don't you look it up? This is what she writes. Is racist. Okay, she says that, Prabhupada's comment is racist. It's not rocket science, only a fool would say otherwise, don't you think? Okay, so she's challenging. She says, no, actually, a person who thinks that this is not racist, this is what Prabhupada said, then he's a fool. Okay, so there have been a couple of responses to this. You can check it out. I'm just gonna read one made by our devotee friend Maitreya Rishi Prabhu because I think it's quite to the point. Um, okay, he gives the quote. Prabhu has found a quote where Prabhupada says this. So let's see what Prabhupada says. Prabhupada, Shudra is to be controlled only. They're never given to be freedom. Just like in America, the blacks were slaves, they were under control, and since you have given them some equal rights, they're disturbing, most disturbing, always creating a fearful situation, uncultured and drunkards. What training they have got? They have got equal right. That is best to keep them under control as slaves, but give them sufficient food, sufficient cloth, not more than that. Then they will be satisfied. Okay, so this is quite a strong statement, but we're gonna analyze and we're gonna see it's not racist. A disciple says, if that's done, then how will those who have some potential to be educated, how will we recognize them? So this keeps it in a context. See, the disciple is asking, obviously Prabhupada is not saying that all black people are supposed to be uh, taking their rights and keep as slaves and so on and so on. Prabhupada is criticizing that many black people are drunkards, uncultured, and a disturbance in the society in America. You see, but he doesn't say that all black people. There's many of them. This is a fact. It's not something that um, is a belief or some kind of a bias, but it's a fact. And what is more important, that Prabhupada is actually hinting that this is actually the flaw of the whites, because the whites, first of all, they have enslaved these black people, and then because of some other political reason, they have given them freedom because they could not bear the responsibility anymore. See, this is the problem. In Of course, slavery is a horrible thing, but you should also see why the white people have abolished the slavery, because they could not take care of the slaves anymore. If you have a slave, then you have to take care of him, to take care of his medical problems, his eating, his sleeping, everything. So this is the reason why the slavery was abolished. It was not because of some noble uh, equalitarian ideals. It was simply it was simply because people didn't know these white people didn't want to take responsibility anymore in their exploitation. You see, so there's a deeper meaning behind it. And this is what Prabhupada is hitting on. That if you're such a nonsense, see, now you have such a nonsense because you gave these people equal rights, so called, in a white country where everyone has this racist, in heart, as Prabhupada said before, in heart they're all racists. So naturally, the black people have no position at all. This is the problem. Uh, so Prabhupada is saying that better you should have given them, you should keep them as slaves. See, you wanted to make it better. First of all, you should not make them slaves in the first place. Even this Shudra, when Prabhupada is comparing this to the Shudras in the Varnashram system, in the Vedic system, Shudra is not exploited. Shudra is not a slave in a Vedic society like we understand. A Shudra is being taken care of. He is supplied his foodstuff, his accommodation, everything is being taken. He's the king. The Vedic king is supposed to take Shudras as his children. It's not in a sense that exploitation, but protection. See, this also relates to how the Vedic society treats women. Sometimes there's an objection like that. You are discriminating against women. You're thinking that women are inferior. Not in that sense of exploitation. Because you only understand exploitation, that's where you're coming from this animalistic society. You also think, oh, this must be exploitation. No. It's from the platform of protection, giving protection. So the black people should be taken care of. Not simply dumped. Oh, okay. Now you can't be slaves, so take care of yourself. Do whatever you want. And naturally, without any guidance, without any opportunity, without any help, the black people are desperate that they taking up drugs and crime and so on, so on. This is the problem of the white people. This is what Prabhupada is hinting here. So now the disciple says, if that's done, then how will those who have some potential be educated? How will we recognize them? See, our Krishna consciousness movement is based on spirit, and that's why we recognize the black people as equal to white people. They have the same spiritual potential to become great devotees, great teachers of spiritual science. Everyone has that potential. Whether it's black or white doesn't matter. So, where's the racism here? I don't follow exactly. Quite the opposite. And Prabhupada continues, either educate them or control them. Give them facility of education. But there is no education at all. Even for the whites, there is no education. So we're stressing on the point of education. You educate certain section as Brahmana, certain section as Kshatriya, certain section as Vaishya. In that education, we don't discriminate because he's coming of a Shudra family. Take education, be qualified. Then you talk, not by votes. So, anyway, I kind of like interjected because Maitreya Prabhu, he wrote a comment. Let me read that comment first. Maitreya writes, you have misappropriated the quote. Srila Prabhupada specifically notes that he is not stressing black people or white people. He's stressing that without the high ideals of spiritual education, man is like an animal, uncontrolled and with no principles. It doesn't matter what color he is. If he is without spiritual understanding, he is a problem for everyone. And if he is black or yellow or blue or whatever, if he has spiritual knowledge, he's perfect. Black people are simply an exemplary manifestation of the present status of civilization. They had no proper education like everyone else in this age, and from a state of strict control causing no problems, they were let free and caused problems in society like everyone else. Srila Prabhupada states there are examples so people who are not so bright can easily understand the point. Without God consciousness, whoever he might be, is a rascal and should be controlled. In the future, you should either read the full context or at least not twist the meaning, Maitreya. So exactly, this is the point here, and it's very low class. That actually people take this out of context and then they make a big propaganda that, oh, Prabhupada is a racist and he hates the hate people, and this is ridiculous. I'm sorry to say. Srila Prabhupada wrote 80 volumes of literatures. 1 billion of them have been distributed all over the world. You take any of these books, you take a random page, I guarantee you will bump into this idea, you are not this body. Very soon. Very soon. It's almost on every single page. Prabhupada is emphasizing. But you are not this body, you damn mudha rascal number one. See? And on this basis, we have come out of this bodily conception of life. We're devotees who have accepted Srila Prabhupada as our spiritual. We have come out of this bodily conception of life. We don't see people like that. He's a black Jew and this and that. That's nonsense. We see that practically because this Krishna consciousness movement is the most diverse community. Everyone is included. There are Jews, there are Christians, there are blacks, there are whites, there are Asians, there are Muslims, there are Russians. Everyone is there because it's a spiritual movement. It is not a sectarian movement. So do you think that the leader of this movement is a racist? You're so damn fool, number one. But simply because people don't want to follow these principles. They don't want it. They don't want to control their senses. They don't want to worship God. They want to go to McDonald's and eat hot dogs and gratify their senses and enjoy illicit sex life. So Prabhupada is an obstacle. They see, oh, this guru, he's teaching some principles, so I must find some flaw so I can justify my sinful activities. This is the real reason why people are saying this Prabhupada is racist. Not many people say that, but some people said like that. It is laughable. Here is a memory by Brahmananda, one of the disciples, what Srila Prabhupada said about black people. Preaching in Africa seems to be a waste of time, said Prabhupada's disciple Garga Muni. Garga Muni, you can also find him on Facebook, still alive. He lives in Vrindavan. Garga Muni wanted to convince Prabhupada that his brother Brahmananda Swami should come and join them in India. Prabhupada, what is Brahmananda doing there? He could be here in India. I don't really think the people there can become Krishna conscious because they're so backward. So this is what this disciple Garga Muni told Prabhupada. He said that it's pointless to preach in Africa because the black people are backwards. You see? So, but Prabhupada responded, you are thinking that the Negros cannot become actually Krishna conscious because you are in a different body. You are in a white body. This is your body prejudice. You are thinking like that. But from my point of view, I am seeing you as a white Negro. You see? So Prabhupada called him, you're a white Negro, you're a white black man. You see? If the black people are backwards, then you are also black. Prabhupada gave him a nice lesson to learn. And with this, I would like to say thank you for listening, and I hope this will produce some discussion. Please don't hesitate to write your comment on this topic, even if you don't agree, especially if you are from the Black Lives Matter. We welcome a discussion on this topic, or if you felt inspired or if you felt agitated, please write a comment. We'll discuss it. Let's discuss 24 hours, 40 years, let's discuss this topic. And I convince you that Krishna consciousness is not racist and you can find a real liberation in this Krishna conscious movement. Thank you so much for listening. I would like to thank our supporters for giving donations. Bhakta Dushan from Slovakia, Holly, David Heiser from US, and Bridget also from UK. They gave a nice donation. Thank you so much for keeping our podcast going, our Bliss movement going. Very much appreciate. If any one of you want to give a donation, there are links in the description on the video. We have Patreon. If you want to become a regular supporter and receive nice gifts, we also give gifts to our Patreon members. The link is there. You can donate through PayPal or GoFundMe, I believe. You can also leave a message. We're also on Facebook. Get in touch with us. Get in touch with Bliss devotees. If you have any questions, or comments, or realizations, please share. We would like to hear from you more. Thank you so much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.